I think you have to approve that or something. Okay. All right. So I got to put this legal thing on here. So you and I are going to have what I call a good start session on an issue that will unfold as we go through this session. And we're going to record it. And I will be calling you Roop during this. That is okay with you to do. You may, at the end of it, choose to have privacy, which could include any of the following: completely blanking out your video, although people would know your name, Roop, they wouldn't see the video, and adjusting the pitch of your voice so that it becomes difficult to recognize, and so on. That's your choice. Now, and it will be your choice at the end, but I want to comment here first. I think you come across really gently, really nice, really sincerely if you show yourself without any kind of privacy. I'm urging you to think in that direction. And I'm not hearing anything we've talked about so far that would get in the way of that. Am I incorrect?
It's just how I feel about it, but you're right. Yeah.
Well, okay, make that decision later. Okay. All right. Now, but it's okay with you if we record on that basis.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing is you recognize that I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a licensed anything. Right. And so, you're not going to hold me liable. You're going to take care of yourself and all this stuff. I'm just trying to do my best. We are friends trying to help each other, and there is no liability. You're not going to send your lawyers after me or anything else. Correct?
Correct.
All right. Okay, so that little piece will get edited out. My lawyers will scream at me if I don't do it. so to maintain my own peace, we do that one. Okay. All right, so then we'll begin with this. Okay, so. Well, okay, Roop, we've had a interesting discussion for maybe the better part of an hour on the issue we're going to address. And it was about an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that issue had to do with the kind of reverse of what I'm used to. People are used to saying, I'm in this world of separation. How do I get out of it? Or how do I, this kind of thing. You're saying from age up to 7, is this correct? Up to 7? What did you call, you were in a spiritual awareness area of your life. And you called it the golden what?
The golden current.
Talk about that for a minute. What was that like the first 7 years of your life? Wait, let me say something first. The main issue is you've had this magnificent spiritual experience. And then a shift occurred, and now you're in this world of seeming separation, this dream, this illusion that we talk about so much in our optimal EFT course with the unseen therapist and so on. And you're wanting to get back there. You wanted to get back to the golden current. I'm saying it right?
Yeah,
all right.
More or less, yeah.
All right, now talk about the golden current.
Okay, so the golden current for me is something I could actually perceive and feel, and it's a state of bliss, and I would radiate that bliss. I would feel it in every fiber of my being.
Up until age 7.
Yeah, about age 8. Yeah, for the first 7 years, it was very strong, and it was like the sun shining all the time. And I would wake up and just look forward to the day, but not just, that sounds so bland when I put it, but it was with great joy and anticipation about what this day could bring, and everything had its beauty. It was for me, it was heaven on earth.
Well, you're describing a 7-year version of what I experienced, which I call not the golden current, I call oneness. Okay. But you're describing that oneness that we're even teaching people to try to get to. And I'm trying to get back there myself, because I was there briefly in 1988. If you read my book, that experience would have been there. Anybody listening in, read. By the way, if you're listening in, there are some links at the bottom of this called Essential Links. And they will, among them is a link to the book, a link to advanced training and so on. It's a free ebook. So, but anyway, we want to get back to that, that exquisite experience. Now, let me compare something with you for a moment. That exquisite experience that I experienced, it doesn't necessarily have to be yours. I just want to compare for a moment. That to me was our true reality. While this world of separation, where everybody seems to be separate from everything else and not this oneness, grandeur, bliss, okay, was the real reality. Even though this experience here seems so convincingly real, the real reality, to me at least, was that oneness thing that I had experienced for a few minutes. Is that parallel with your golden current? Or was there,
yes,
would you say some differences?
No, it is a oneness. It is emerging. I think the bit the part I'm trying to get back to was this, how do I say, a kind of a twin awareness. So experiencing it in the human body constantly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we have people listening in have different religious and spiritual backgrounds and beliefs, etc. But I want to pick up on what you said just now and bring up not necessarily Jesus, because some people believe in Jesus, some people don't believe in Jesus, etc. I want to talk about the idea of Jesus. That is someone so spiritually evolved within a human body that they could do all these magical things, raise the dead and cure the sick and walk on water and all the other things which were a walk in the park if you are truly spiritually oriented into this golden current, into this oneness. If you are plugged in, even within a human body, you are still plugged into that ultimate source. You can do all these things. Now, I think that plugs into your desire. You want to have that golden current, as you call it, while running around inside a body.
Yep.
Did I say it right?
Yep.
You don't want much, do you?
But I've already experienced it.
All right. And you experienced it for 7 years.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit too young to truly understand what you could do with all of that, because that's very early on, but maybe not. Okay. So that's the goal. And as you described this to me, Roop, somehow or other after age 7, that oneness, that golden current faded, and you got more and more into, now what do I do to get around this illusion, this dream? And you're nodding your head. I guess that means yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And in there, you use the word, prior to our recording here, feeling powerless within it.
Yeah.
And so you and I talked about where that powerless feeling would come from. And I see a couple of things and you see a couple of things, but we want to talk about that because it's where that comes from that we want to aim at. We want to do something about, we want to get a good start on unraveling that powerless feeling. So you can get back into power. Am I saying the goal correctly?
Yep.
All right. All right. So the power, I'm going to talk for a moment about the powerlessness as I understand it. To have 7 years of this oneness golden current is a nice heavy dose, my opinion. Okay. I had maybe 7 minutes, okay, if that, all right. But you're also very young. All right. Now, you have to run around in this world. This world is one of competition. Everybody seems to think they're running around in their own separate body, looking after their own separate interests. And so you have to compete with all that you got to compete for money. You got to compete for position. You got to compete for romance. You got to compete for, all kinds of things in this world. And everybody else is looking out for themselves, compete. And that, for someone who just wants to be peaceful, that could end up being powerless. How am I doing?
Very good.
Would you add anything to that?
So I just want to clarify something, which is, no, you're absolutely right. I do look upon the world in a bemused state. However, my journey, I've been meditating, for example, for 38 years, since the age of 12. And finding my way back, as it were. And I do connect to that inner peace. It just, when I'm meditating.
Oh, you do? You get into the golden current?
Yes, I feel the current. It's tantalizingly close. And when I'm less bothered by the world, less bothered by my issues that we talked about, and shaking my head in bemusement about how the world operates.
Meaning it's a silly world, but I got to deal with it anyway? Exactly.
Then the synchronicities that we talked about happen. And so I know I'm in the flow. However, part of me, which is this human part of me, the human consciousness, is not connected in the same way as it used to be.
That's good or bad?
Bad.
All right, tell me how that's bad.
Because I'm not feeling the joy, the bliss, the potential of each day, just enjoying the little things. I feel paralyzed. I feel very stiff, powerless, even to say what I want. Do you want a piece of fruit? Yeah, I would love a. Doesn't come out of my mouth.
I didn't quite get that. You want a piece of fruit? Was that what?
So if you offer me a piece of fruit,
Uh-huh.
What fruit would you like?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't come up with an answer because I've been conditioned just to accept whatever's given to me.
Okay. All right.
Not state a preference.
All right. So here's what I'm thinking. And this we talked about before the recording, but I'm going to say it probably a little differently. So I need to have you verify if I'm in the right place or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we've been in the golden current, the oneness, and then starts to fade. Here comes the illusionary world. You got to get around in it, the dream. You got to compete. You got to stand up for yourself. You've got to make yourself known. You got to do all that stuff. Okay. And even something simple like asking for a piece of fruit and what kind would you like, you have a difficulty asserting yourself, letting yourself be known, putting your own stuff out there. There's a powerless feeling. Now that I see you nodding your head. That comes from, to use your term, conditioning from this world. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking before the recording about influences by, for example, your father. Now, here you are, very young, and he would not let you do anything. You had to the point where you always felt like if you were going to do anything, you had to check with somebody else to see if it's okay. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. How does that, I mean, I don't have that myself. Okay. So I need to have a sense from you of what that's like. Can you give me an example or something like that?
So an example from my life. So first of all, let me say what it feels like.
Sure.
This feeling of not being powerful. So what it's felt like is coming out of this beautiful current and into a hurricane or a tornado. There's a darkness and it's swirling around and it's very confusing, very disorienting. The example I want to give that comes to mind was when I first got my personal computer, those big chunky things.
Many
years.
A couple of decades ago, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the box stayed unopened for a week. Now the box, so it had come from the cold, so it had to stay. You want to avoid condensation, right? So it had to acclimatize. But then he wouldn't let me open it, and I kept asking him. I don't know why I kept asking him, but it was just normal to do that. You ask for permission.
Let me stop you there for a second. I'm hearing you were conditioned not to ask him. It's a simple thing. Can I open the box? But you're conditioned not to ask him. You've got to check with authorities and all of this, and authorities know the answer, and you don't. Am I saying it right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have. Am I saying it right? You don't even have the right to ask to open the box. Did I hear it right?
That's right. Yes. I couldn't just open the box without asking.
Well, you have to ask. Okay. So when you ask and your father says, no, we got to have somebody else open the box for you. Is that right?
Yeah. And assemble it.
All right. Now let me just stop right there. We'll go on with this. But that is to me, in my experience, a very heavy conditioning that says you are powerless unless you ask me first. I have to make the decisions for you. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
That's heavy conditioning. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you put it like that, yeah.
Well. Let me also mention this. Most kids, at least in my experience, and your culture may have been from a different country than mine, and this one here in America, but they're forever into things, opening stuff and doing stuff they shouldn't do. They're forever exploring, pushing the boundaries and seeing how much trouble they can get. I mean, we do a lot of that. And you had that, if I'm hearing it right, conditioned right out of you. Yes?
Yep.
Well, all right. That's called a limit.
Yeah, it happened from an earlier age. You know that when we talked about being tested.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, but let's go on with this. The box, unless you finish with the personal computer box, we can go on to anything you want. But testing, sure.
Okay. Whatever. All right. So, let me finish with the box. So I couldn't open the box and I couldn't assemble the computer.
You couldn't because you didn't know how, or you weren't allowed to?
I wasn't allowed to.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know how either, because it was the first time I had one of these things, but I knew I could figure it out.
But you dare
just read
not.
the manual, but I dare not.
But you dare not. Okay. Well, let me stop you there a second. You dare not, thou shalt not open this box. Thou shalt not do anything unless Father says, or else is what I'm hearing it. You didn't say it, but there's an or else. There's a penalty. What's the penalty if you open the box or do something without his authority?
He'd be very angry.
Now I'm hearing something a little, yes, got that. I'm hearing something a little differently than that, but correct me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing, yes, he will be angry. Right. I'm also hearing, I won't get his love. I need his love. And if I make him angry, love is gone. Fits? Not fit?
Kind of, because it would upset my mum. If he was angry, then life would be unpleasant for everybody.
All right. I'm hearing the penalty. I'm hearing lack of love in it, or losing love. I'm hearing that in there someplace, even though you're not using it. And I can be wrong. That's something that I see so often. But let's use a different word than losing love. You would be disapproved of.
Mm-hmm.
You would feel rejected. On point?
It's more about the consequences resulting from the disapproval.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That go beyond me.
All right. Continue. I keep interrupting because I just want to get more and more and more on the table. See what we're doing here. We're going to eventually bring in unseen therapists eventually, but what we're doing now, Roop, is we're putting as much on the table as we can. We are reframing things. We are exploring things because we want as much on the table as we can when we finally get to unseen therapists. Because we want to minimize anything that may be hidden, forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to look at, we've repressed people. We do that. Okay. So that's why we're exploring all that. We want to do as much as we can to put as much on the table when it comes time for unseen therapists. So anyway, continue on, please.
Okay. So in this particular case, 1 week had passed and I asked again, when can I open this? Because was super excited. And my father said he would ask a neighbor who was a mechanic by profession, didn't know anything about computers.
Like a car mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can remember this sinking feeling. Why is this guy held so high? And I know nothing. I'm treated like that.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling very angry. And so guess what I did, Gary? I opened the box. I assembled the computer. And when he came home from work, I just gazed at him in a defiant way and said, look, and showed it working. And he was very surprised. It wasn't the eruption that I was expecting. But he raised his eyebrows in a classic expression of surprise that he did.
So with that experience, were you then saying, oh, maybe I'm not powerless after all, or did that show up?
I knew I wasn't. I knew I could do it. I knew I could figure it all out. However, there was this always this battle to get there.
You
And that's
always
been,
you always have to go
Yeah.
to the authority.
yeah, or battle through the authorities or listen to what the authority says. And the authority can be different people. There have been different circumstances in my life. You know, it's just not my father, is just my father, but there's been others.
Well, yeah, but I'm guessing the foundation comes from your father, because you start you use the term radiating early on in this conversation. And so you start radiating this powerless or this conflict going on. You know, and people will pick up what we radiate. You know, our gestures, our tones of voice, they pick this sort of thing up. And so this is what I'm hearing. This is my experience.
Mhm.
Other people who show up become replicas of your father. They're picking up your powerlessness. They become authorities. And so your powerlessness has to continue asking authorities for what to do. And if you don't, you feel guilty, angry, or if you don't comply, you feel guilty, angry, powerless, etc. Don't let me impose words on you.
No, that's certainly true. I want to talk about an earlier memory,
Okay,
because there's more than one ingredient, I think, to this mix
sure.
of feeling powerless. So, taking a holiday to India when we were kids, we were very well behaved. You know, we wouldn't run around the house opening drawers, picking up things. We were in, you know, we didn't touch other people's belongings. In one incident, I was sitting with my sisters in a room, and there was some money left on a table. And we became concerned in case that money got lost somehow. And it should be returned to the owner of the house. That's what we discussed it amongst ourselves, and that's what we ended up doing. However, when we went to see our mum, who was sitting with the owner started almost celebrating. It was a very odd reaction. He's kind of laughing and celebrating.
You were giving the owner this money.
Yeah, we handed it over to our mum.
Okay.
To give to the right person.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a test. So the money had been left deliberately on the table.
A test. Okay.
And the bet was with my mom. The bet was from the owner that we would touch the money, because my mom had said to her, we were so well behaved, we wouldn't touch anything.
Oh, okay.
So we failed the test. Why did we touch the money? My mom asked. She was a little upset about it all. And so it dawned on me, in my memory, or in my recollection, it dawned on me that there were far-reaching consequences of even the smallest acts.
Of even smaller tests.
The smallest acts going on.
Yeah.
I couldn't know the veracity of anything. I couldn't look at something on the surface and just say, this is what it is. There might be some deeper hidden significance or meaning, which had consequences that would either upset my mom or upset my dad or whatever else. We would be in trouble, whatever it was.
And you were powerless.
And it's a paralyzing feeling, especially when you're still in single figures.
You mean age-wise?
Age-wise, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you you've got to ask authorities, and you're constantly, I mean, this is one story you give about being tested. We talked earlier, but you are constantly being tested. You must behave, my terms or else, okay? But you must behave. You must do things just right, which means you can't do things on your own. You got to ask, you got to ask, you got to ask. You have been conditioned to be powerless. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and you've got to anticipate.
Say more.
So for example, instead of just doing something, you have to think out what the future consequences could be.
As if you know at age 8, 10, or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, and then mitigate them and take corrective actions. Yeah.
Whatever that is at age 6, 8, 10, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, the adult in you, I'm presuming, sees the folly in that.
Yep.
Okay. However, and this is what we want to aim at, the young child in you, the conditioning in you, the emotional response, which is the important term here, is different than the logical response. I mean, that's silly as we look back at it as an adult.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. But the response, which is at a physical layer, is extremely powerful.
Yeah. I know as we were even talking about this kind of thing before we recorded, you were telling me you were feeling some kind of anxiety or what
around here.
In here.
Yeah, just some agitation. Yeah.
Are you feeling it now?
It's present. I'm aware of it. It's much lower, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me. But by the way, this thing about it being silly and all that, as an adult looking back at it, is a form of reframe. You know, and we've been talking about this, putting more on the table, and we can see you were conditioned. I've said that several times. This is sort of sowing seeds, if you will, sowing reframe seeds for your system. So when we finally get to unseen therapists, we've massaged this hopefully well enough so that we can start doing something with it. But in summary, so far, we have the golden current, 7 years of your life. Then we have a shift, and the conditioning of the world, the illusionary dream world around us starts to kick in. Your father being a central player.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to ask the authority. You don't have any power of your own, hence powerless. Okay. You're being tested constantly. You've got to anticipate and have the right answers.
Yep.
I'm sitting here laughing because, you know, in a sense, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but there was a sitcom in this country decades ago called All in the Family. Do you ever remember seeing that?
No.
Well, the lead guy in there was named Archie, but he was a bigot. And he was always, you know, downgrading people who weren't he was white, his white race, you know, the black people, the Mexican people, they're dumb. And I mean, he did it in such a way that it became hilarious. And the hilariousness actually made the point about how stupid racial beliefs and comments really are. It was very well, even though it was insulting in one sense, it was done in a way where you can say, how dumb. Okay. And in one sense, I'm trying to do this with you. We're trying to look at some of the things that you had to experience in your conditioning and go, really? You know, that's what we're trying to do. I'm hoping we're starting to make some headway. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, we are. You know, I'm sitting here watching myself and listening to you as well. And And I think the issue is, and I've been feeling this more strongly the last few days, is I've been unable to see it. I've experienced it. I've lived through the conditioning. I've acted upon it, poured myself into it, given my best to it, but yet not seen it.
You've been complying with it, but it's just been sort of automatic.
Yep.
Okay. And our reframing now, the purpose of it has been to have you stand back and look and go, really? I mean, that's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah. Okay.
So that seems to be, I don't know if we're going to collapse all that in one session, but that you're seeing things you haven't seen before in that sense?
Yeah. Yeah, starting to, yeah.
Okay. Don't ever let me put words in your mouth, okay?
Because I think the cracks are emerging. I mean, the cracks are developing, right?
Yeah.
Where they weren't, and it's quite what's behind them.
All right. Now, I'm going to do a little more reframing before we bring in unseen therapists. Okay. Your father, as far as you can tell, why would he behave in such an authoritarian way? What motivates that?
I've been thinking about that too, because I cared for him in this last part of his life for 6 years. 5 of those years was full time. And he would talk about his life. And one of those things was that he was powerless. He felt powerless. He came from India to the UK, and his vision of being in the UK and his vision of being accepted by its people was just that. It was an illusion. And he struggled. He struggled for many years, trying to get promoted, working very hard, believing in hard work, believing in meritocracy. And he told me, and this was very painful for him. But now I look back, I can see how it contributed to his behavior, because he wasn't very good at talking about his emotions. He didn't know how to deal with them. And he didn't want to be seen as a failure to his family back in India either. So his work...
I'm going to stop you there 1 second. Yeah. 1 second if I can.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to be seen as a failure. I'm hearing, but correct me. Okay. I'm hearing.
Yeah.
If he is a failure, that is yet more evidence that he is powerless.
Yes. But this particular example that he talked about, so he would work hard. He would the outputs of his work, not just one manager, but maybe a couple of them, successive ones, would erase his name from the work and put their name instead. They got promoted.
Yes. Okay.
So he was working for their promotion.
Yes.
And he was the only person of color in this particular department. And he didn't know how to react to that. He wasn't seen, he wasn't supported, and he was clearly good enough. He clearly worked hard, but he was stopped from succeeding.
All right. Now I am seeing, to me it's kind of obvious actually, but I can always be wrong here. But here is a man who feels powerless on his own. working, if you will, in your example, for other people's promotions, being put down, needing to feel okay about himself, to feel powerful, to feel successful in some fashion. Okay. And one way to do that is to have power over other people.
Yeah.
Now, we're not blaming him. We're understanding the behavior. That's the purpose. We're not excusing the behavior. We're not blaming the behavior. We're understanding the behavior. All right. We're not even supporting or condoning the behavior. We're understanding the behavior. So here is someone that I'm seeing that has all this powerlessness feeling, wanting to be success somehow. And one way to do that is I can see a couple of ways. One is to have power over other people, and who better to have power over than someone who really can't react back, and that's your children. All right. Not to excuse it and not to blame. I can see the motivation. I can see why that would be important. I can see how he would even call that to be loving, because he wants you to turn out right by his means. Okay. So here's a man who needs to be powerful himself, who is feeling powerless. And so he has power over his children, and you included. Testing the children, and got to do it my way, and don't open the box until I say, and all this stuff. Okay. Giving you the feeling of powerlessness. And I can also see, you haven't said this, but let me float this possibility, that one way he can be perceived as powerful in his social circles or successful in his circles is if his children behave well. They are his badges. And that being very important. And if you misbehave somehow, here comes big time anger consequences. In my own point, I'm sitting here. I want to make sure I'm not imposing stuff.
There is a status thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
From exam grades, anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not going to excuse the behavior. Okay.
But I want to say one thing as well.
Please.
One of the things is I think his idea of how to navigate the system.
How to navigate what?
The system or life.
The system. Okay.
Yeah, that he found himself in. The way he managed to do it, he then, I guess, whether consciously or unconsciously, tried to impose onto us as well. Because his way of doing things was get permission.
Yeah, okay. And that's how the world works to him.
Yeah.
All right. So what else could he give to his kids other than how the world works? Is he going to give them something other than he doesn't believe in or doesn't experience? I mean, how can you do that? Well, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I think it's time to bring in unseen therapists and put some of this together with her help. Does that seem to work for you?
Yep.
All right. Now, you and I have done unseen therapists before, and you're used to our course and one thing and another. Okay, Roop. So I'm going to narrate this, but I want to do it in a way that it's going to be easy for you. But I also want to do it in a way that is jointly done, where we work together. Love is best when shared. Okay. So this is going to be a three-way experience. At least that's how I'm seeing it. You, me, and the unseen therapist. What that means is I'm going to sort of be the head narrator, if you will, in all of this, sort of guiding it. But anytime we're doing this and something comes up for you where maybe something I say doesn't seem on point, or you have a new perspective, or another thought comes up that you think would be useful, stop, bring it up.
Okay.
And we'll integrate it or not integrate it, whatever. But that's how we do it jointly. Now, you don't have to do that. Maybe this is all going to fall smoothly. No need to do that. You're not required to do it. You're encouraged to do it if it shows up.
Okay.
All right.
Can I ask you before we start?
Well, wait, no. Before you ask me.
Okay. Okay.
There's one requirement here, right? And that's that you do it right or don't do it at all. A little reframe before we begin, okay? Anyway, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something because usually with the unseen therapist type experiences, there's things move quite quickly from one to another. So it's knowing when to stop exactly, because it's sort of it can happen quite quickly with many things.
I'm missing
each other.
I'm missing this. This is your experience with unseen therapists. They happen quickly and got to know.
Yeah. So no, you said if a thought arises or if some experience arises, then stop and talk about it. Mention it.
Yeah. Open the box.
Yeah. Open the box. But what happens if there's a series of things, one after another, rapidly?
We're doing it together.
Okay.
All right. We're doing it together. I don't know what's going to happen. I never know. I just start and I get some stuff starts going on and metaphors occur and we go places and
okay.
I can often start a session. And by the way, for those listening in, there's some sort of standard sessions that we do that are very useful for a lot of things. But because we're into an advanced sort of thing here, I'm going to get a little more creative just to be fun too. Okay. So it's a little more advanced than a beginner's use of our course. It's more advanced use of it. But anyway, with that in mind, close the eyes, take a nice, deep, relaxing breath. And as a way of inviting unseen therapist, who, by the way, has been listening here all along. Okay. But just align yourself as best you can with her pure love, which is by recalling a loving moment, a simple little loving moment in your own life, and just nod your head whenever you're there. All right, good. Okay. One thing I didn't do before this is to get a before 0 to 10 on something. But I'm sort of guided because we're not going to be dealing with a specific event necessarily. I'm sort of guided to let's just move through this however it unfolds without measuring a bunch of stuff. Okay. So let's go back in time from your ages 0 to 7. When you're in this golden current, everything is taken care of. There's a certain power in it, as we described. I don't know on the recording or not, but you described this as something that wasn't the power of I'm bigger than somebody else, so I have physical power or financial power, or no, it's the power of just truth, the power of absolute knowledge, which is much different than the other kinds of power the illusionary world seems to think is important. That's actually another part of the illusion. The real power is, there is nothing but the oneness, the golden current, as you called it prior to the recording, the divine mother. We call it the unseen therapist, but same thing. But here's this golden current, as you call it. Right. You are in it. And from our discussion, you're the one that's in it, but your father, other members of your family, and so on, are not in it. They're more dealing with the separated world, the illusion, the dream, the place where we've got to compete and have the other kind of power, if you will, which can eventually lead, for at least some people, probably most people, versions of powerlessness. In fact, if you think about it, those people that you think, we tend to think in this world, have the most power, as the world sees the word power, at some level feel powerless because they keep wanting more and more and more power. That's one of the things they want more money. They have all the money in the world. Now they want more money. They want more power. They want more influence. One could say that's because there's a powerlessness thing they're trying to avoid. Be that true or not. In that golden current, powerlessness does not exist. Would I be correct?
Yeah.
All right. But Father, for example, is outside of that. Other people in the world are outside of that. Very few people. Some people have gotten to it, myself included briefly, okay, but not 7 years, okay. So in one sense, you have power because you have an understanding. You have a experience in this world that very few people have. In that sense, by calling that form of power, that truth, that ultimate knowledge, makes you more powerful than just about anybody else because the rest of the world just is not seeing it. So the powerlessness that you experience really is something that has developed from within a fictional dream world. Are you agreeing with this so far? Because this is a little different than we talked about. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you actually have more power than just about anybody else you know. Okay. Maybe some exceptions someplace, but basically the real power you have experienced for 7 years where other people have experienced it not at all, or maybe for a minute or 2 or 5 or something like that with a spiritual experience. But that lasts for 7 years. The golden current is still there, but you have somehow shifted away from it because now you are being conditioned by what appears to be the outside world. Conditioned primarily by, or often, centrally, by your father. Now, one thing your father has never done, at least in our experience, has been in that golden current. I want to ask you, Roop, is it possible, in your imagination anyway, and even though he's passed on, to join with him, take him with you into that golden current to see what happens? Does that seem imaginarily possible?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I've had experiences of my father following his passing, where
Okay.
he exhibits that same joy I felt.
All right.
For
All
those
right. So
7 years.
let's do that in your imagination. I know he's not here physically and all of that, but our imagination is, it's a really nice tool. You can do almost anything you want to do with it. Okay. So there's you and your father. And even though you've had these nice experiences with him after and around his passing and so on, let's take him back at a time when he's being authoritarian because he thinks he needs to be authoritarian. Okay. That's the way you raise children. He wants to be powerful himself. It's an illusion. It's a mistake. We're not blaming him. But it's an error because he passed this on to his son, who is running around feeling powerless when he's very educated. He's very well spoken, and he's walks around this very nice looking, walks around this world, but feeling powerless. So you take your father into this golden current, and there you are. There's the unseen therapist. You'll have to wait one moment here while I answer the phone. Just a minute. Lauren, I have to call you back. All right, so let me make a little note. Sorry. So there's your father in the current, a different experience for him. He's been conditioned himself to be powerless, had all his experiences, and now he gets to experience what it's like to have the true, real power. And he can look at this and say, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe the real power isn't what I think it is. Okay? And the powerlessness isn't what I think or thought it was. Rather, this other power, this power of the truth, this power of knowledge, not the power of the world. This is the true power. Now, let me bring you into this for the moment, Roop. In your imagination, how do you see your father reacting? Is he not liking it? Is he resisting it? Is he going along with it? Is he transforming? Tell me what's happening.
He's going along with it. He can see the truth of it. Okay. He can understand it. I mean, as you were talking, I was showing him another incident because this is another aspect. He would do things quickly. So for any task, it always felt like there was a stopwatch going off. And it had to be done really quickly or else. And this particular incident involved a taxi.
Involved
a taxi.
A taxi, okay.
And a taxi ride going somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I paid the taxi guy. And my dad was saying, hurry up, and he was really doing things. He was agitated. Things had to be done quickly. And then he paid the taxi driver himself. And then got angry when he found out I already paid him. The taxi driver just sped off, having been paid twice.
Sounds like a true capitalist, actually. All right.
So there was no communication. There was just this rapid action, and he was in charge. And I was showing him that, and he was just watching it.
Well, okay. So in the golden current,
yes,
were you revisiting that, and is there a different take on it?
Yes, revisiting it, but speaking to him very calmly. I wasn't feeling the emotion, but I was replaying it, and saying to Dad, "This is the impact it had on me." It felt like an emotional earthquake, the wave rippling through me.
So as you are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know how best to describe it, but it's like something from the external, like a wave of negativity, and then I'm absorbing that. It's coming through me, and I plummet inside.
You plummet. Is that good or bad?
Bad.
Bad. Okay. I was
Yeah.
hearing in all of that a transformative type thing. Like now you're advising your father about, hey, I forgot the words you were using, but lighten up. You were echoing the truth of the matter.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So
but very calmly, very peacefully.
Yeah. Calmly calmly, peacefully,
without judgment. Yeah.
Which was if I'm getting it right, a transformative, positive shift in your reaction.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not getting where the plummeting bad thing is. Is that now gone away, or is that to be dealt with?
It's a memory, but so it's what I experienced, but somewhere that plummeting feeling, as if joy or optimism or my sense of being or self-esteem, you tied a big lead block and it just plummeted. And I think that's being held. It feels like it's being held around my tummy area.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's an agitation there, but it's not so clear to me.
Well, okay. So if I'm hearing it right, there's some form of movement in a good direction in that you were advising him calmly, and that's a different perception. But now we have this plummeting thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the former is here. I can feel it.
What do you feel?
So when I'm advising my father in this golden current, there's this positive feeling radiating here.
Yes. Okay.
And then in the depths of my stomach, there's that plummeting sensation too.
All right. So we're in the golden current, and the golden current, unless I'm missing that's the power of that, it can resolve the plummeting feeling, but we're going to have to somehow bring that plummeting feeling, put some specifics around it. And I have in mind, but you change this if it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
You telling your father in your imagination, hey, I've got this plummeting feeling. Can you help me out? And see what happens. Does that work?
Okay. Happy to give it a go.
Well, go away, or give it a go, I mean.
Okay.
What happened?
My father was in tears.
In tears?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said that this plummeting sensation that I was feeling, that I had absorbed into myself, was part of him, was part of his he called it a projection. he said that and I was holding that part of him that he projected inside of myself. But he never meant for me to do that. He never intended that to happen. He couldn't deal with the situation as he saw it. And he had no idea that this was even happening, or the effect it was having on me.
And what is your response to all of this?
Well, he went on to say to give it to the Divine Mother because she is the true power.
And Divine Mother and unseen therapist would be
the same thing, yes.
Same thing. All right, go ahead.
And so to answer your point, it's something I'm still holding on to because it's still present because I've still got hold of it. I haven't released it.
All right. All right. Well, let's shift. Let's talk more about the plummeting feeling that you have not released. And still in the golden current. I am picturing, by the way, this golden current as a vertical kind of a current.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Sort of like a shower of love coming from above kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have a general idea.
That's right. It's flowing around me and I'm still within it. Yes.
All right. And I have the idea that this plummeting feeling is something like ballast, like a ballast in a hot air balloon that holds the hot air balloon from floating up into the freedom into the sky.
I actually saw it as falling down a mine shaft into blackness.
Oh, okay. Well, we can use that metaphor. Okay. So there we are with the sitting at the bottom of the golden current, and somehow or other the floor disappears and you leave the golden current, temporarily at least, into this, you call it a mine shaft or well?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a darkness, a blackness, and so on. So there you are, and you look up, and you look up, and there's the Divine Mother, the golden current, above you. And I hear her saying, I'm going to send down, I mean, you got some ballast around you down there, okay? You've got some weight. Mm-hmm. You've got some stuff that you bought into, and it's sinking you down there below where you really need to be. And so I'm going to send some helpers on down. Okay.
Can I stop for a second because
Please.
Something's just come up?
Yeah.
Which is that this came up as you were saying that, which is from me to my father. I only wanted your happiness. I wanted you to be happy.
That's you to your father.
Yeah. Okay. And it's as if I chose then to carry some of his sadness, so he was free of it.
Oh, so if you take on his ballast, he's free of it, but you still got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a nice thing. We're going to free your father.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're paying a price.
Yes.
All right. All right. So we're going to let Divine Mother send, let's call them little angels. Will that work? Down the
Yes.
Down into the hole. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear the little angels say, well, okay, this is wonderful that you have the loving thought to free your father. And he is free from this ballast that you now have. We don't see why you want to keep it. I mean, he's already free of it.
Mhm.
If you let go of it, is he going to get it back? That's the question.
No.
Huh? Oh,
No, he won't.
so if you did let go of it, you would just simply have let go of it, and it wouldn't affect your father at all.
That's right.
Would it affect anybody if you let go of it?
No.
Would it affect people positively because you radiate differently?
Yes.
Is that a yes, sort of, or yes,
No,
amen?
it is. No, yes, amen. But it's almost like a temple or a shrine. It's like a mausoleum or something. There's ballast.
I don't see the connection. I mean, is that holding it in place?
Yes, holding it in place. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
because
what I mean.
there's a sort of a reverence around it.
Yes, a sacredness almost to it.
Oh, like good for you, Roop. Look at the great thing you did. Now hold on to it. You can be good forever because you did this nice thing. Is that? Do I have it? Did I paraphrase it right?
Something like that. Not quite like that.
Well,
but it's
you say it
but
your way.
okay, it's more like you took it on. It's almost like you took on this karma yourself. You took it away, a piece of it, to try and help. Except you didn't know what you were doing, and you were allowed to release it, but you still got it until you're told you can release it.
Oh, okay. Well, now the angel says, give me one good reason why you should keep it.
I don't have one.
Well, try, do something. Do it right. Do it right. Do it right.
Is it? Can I really let go now? Is it time? How do I know?
Well, how would you know? Says the angel.
Well, the thought that comes is surely I'd feel something internally that would indicate it.
All right. Well, okay, let's try a little metaphor then. So there you are at the bottom of this hole with the angels around you, counseling with you. And you have around you, around your waist, let us say, ballast, sandbags. Right?
Yep.
The same kind of sandbags that hold down a hot air balloon. All right. And one of them says they have labels on them. What? And we want to talk, just pick out one sandbag and tell me what that label says.
Sacrifice.
Like you must sacrifice. Sacrifice is good.
Yes.
All right. All right. Now, logically, is sacrifice good?
Depends what it is.
Well, in this case, is it good? Do you need it?
No.
All right. So you're looking at this sandbag. And we're going to engage the help of the angels, unseen therapists, divine mother. And so in your imagination, look at that sandbag and look at its weight and let the angels look at it with you and see if in your own mind you can watch that sandbag develop a hole in it so that the sand drains out. And as it does, the label of sacrifice disappears from the sandbag and you become a little lighter. Take a little time to do that. Go through it a time or two or three. The whole sandbag, the sand leaving, sacrifice label fading, and do it again and again. until you've gone as far as you think you can go, and just let me know whenever you complete that. And by the way, there's no requirement that you succeed here. We just want to know what happens.
Mhm. Okay.
What happened?
I did it 3 times. So this sack or Hessian bag, which was full of sand, as I saw a hole in it or punctured a hole into the bag. To my surprise, this gold came out, these nuggets of gold. And there were lots of them. And this awareness was that sacrifice is golden. Okay, these words came to me. And I wondered what that meant. I was surprised at those words. And I saw the word sacrifice fade. So I did it again. This time trying to visualize sand, but again, it was the nuggets of gold.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it again because I didn't understand. Same thing happened. But this time, there was this awareness of that the gold had to be returned back to the golden current. I wasn't meant to hold on to them.
Or what is that? Return to the golden current, or what?
I wasn't meant to hold on to them.
Oh, you weren't meant to hold on to it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a bank.
Okay. In that, turn it over to the golden current and let it do what it wants to do with it. You don't need it anymore. I mean, did I paraphrase that right?
Yes, but what I should have done was take whatever I wanted to take and pass it straight into the golden current. And then that way I could have been lighter.
Okay.
Rather than hold on to it.
All right. Okay. Look at those sandbags again,
Mm-hmm.
and see if you can find the label for yet another.
Yes, I've got one.
Oh, what is that?
Sorrow.
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Meaning you need to keep on with sorrow. Sorrow is important somehow.
Or relieving people of their sorrow.
Okay. So you relieve people of sorrow. That's a good thing. But the only way to relieve them of it is for you to take it on. Am I hearing that right?
That seems to be the case.
Okay. Logically, is that a good solution?
It's a terrible solution.
Well, I'll ask you this other question then. What good does the sorrow, good does it do anybody for you to keep the sorrow you've relieved somebody of?
Well, as life has taught me, no good whatsoever.
Well, let me ask you
Not
this.
as much as I think it would happen.
Say it again.
By taking it on myself, I thought, and I was mistaken in this thinking, as life has shown me, that if a person is relieved of some of their sorrow, they would be lighter beings.
Yeah, but the thing,
And
go ahead.
but they just tend to repeat the mistakes. They tend to get worse rather than better, is what I've experienced.
Okay, now, yes.
So I overstepped a mark. I've overstepped a mark. I've done something I shouldn't have done.
You stepped the mark? I didn't hear that wrong.
I overstepped a mark.
You overstepped the mark. Well, I've got another question for you. If you have relieved someone of their sorrow by taking it on yourself, wouldn't that person still have sorrow because you took on their sorrow and they're feeling sorrow for you? Or they feel guilty now that you have their sorrow?
I'm not sure how many people are actually aware of it.
Well,
they just feel better.
Okay. In your perception, they feel better, but you've got to carry this forward. Now, if you were somehow able to disappear the sorrow from yourself, would that mean the sorrow would come back to the other person, or they'd be free too?
It'd be free.
Then you'd both be free. So they were in a sorrow prison, and you said, oh, okay, I'll open the door, you walk out and I'll walk in. I mean, that's another metaphor, but does that seem right?
I know it sounds bonkers, but that's exactly what's happening.
Well, okay. All right. So they're out and free, but you just decided to go into prison instead.
It's related to the sacrifice.
Yeah, I see that.
And it's motivated by compassion.
Yeah.
I didn't say what I was doing was sensible or right, but it's
if you're compassionate, you're a good person. Yes.
I think, what I'm remembering now is that the overwhelming desire, it's this completely forgetting about myself and seeing the sorrow and wanting to do something about it was just, that was an overwhelming and powerful feeling.
Well, you said was, is that an important word?
In the memory.
All right. Say this sentence for me and tell me on a scale of 0 to 10, how true does it feel? Okay. 10 is, oh, is that ever true? And 0 is nothing. Okay. To be successful in this, I must take on other people's sacrifice and sorrow.
To be successful in this, I must take on other people's sacrifice and sorrow. Yeah, it's about an 8 or a 9.
Oh, really? Okay. Logically, that's true or not?
Logically, it doesn't make sense. Everyone's got to figure it out themselves.
Okay. So another way of saying that is you must, for them to be successful and free, you must let them out of the jail cell and you walk in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the angels have a different thought. Can you imagine that?
I'm glad somebody does.
All right. Angels are saying, well, tell us this, and we'll help you with this, Roop. Why not just disappear the jail cell altogether and both of you be free?
Sounds good.
Well, all right. So we're going to shift metaphors for the moment. Here's the jail cell. Here's somebody in it. Sacrifice, sorrow, whatever else you want to put in the sandbags. They are in the jail cell. Now, your way of going about this is the key to open the jail cell so they can walk out is for you to open the jail cell and then close the door, go into it yourself and close the door. All right.
Mhm.
The unseen therapist, Divine Mother, the angels are saying, well, in your imagination, and we'll help you with this, why don't you just let those people out? And then let's look at the jail cell and disappear it. Have it pixelate, as you might see on a picture of a computer. Pixelate floats off. Or have it just fade off into a cloud. In fact, I will give you a metaphor comes up. There you are. The other people have now left the jail cell. The door is open. You can go in if you want. But suddenly there comes along a cloud, a beautiful, well, it's not really a cloud. It's a segment of the golden current. And it shows up, and before your eyes, it surrounds the jail cell. It just surrounds it.
Mhm.
And in your own imagination, with the help of Divine Mother, angels, and so on, can you imagine, try to imagine the bars, the cell, the room, the lock, the door, all of that dissolving and floating off out of the hole into the golden current and leaving both of you, the other person and yourself, free. Try that a time or two or three or more and tell me what happens.
Okay.
All right. So what happened?
So I did it with a bunch of different people. It's quite a lovely exercise, really. I opened the door, I let them out, I hugged them. And these people have been difficult people in my life. Not so easy. And I found myself saying to them just three words: "You are free." And then watching, and then we both watched the jail cell or the jail house just almost being transported in this column of golden light. And I just repeated it with people, and the other person just walked off, just free and happy. And I realized, and I saw myself as I was looking at myself saying, "What about you?" And the expression came back, "I've always been free."
Well, one of my questions here is that sounds very freeing. It sounds successful and all of that. Okay. My question to you, it's a realistic one.
Mm-hmm.
Are those things you would like to hear come out of your mouth, or are they reflecting an actual shift?
A shift.
A shift. Okay.
Yeah. Because with one of the people, I said to them, "You can stay in there if you want to." I didn't actually care
Okay.
whether they came out or not. They had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling of not caring what the other person wanted to do. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Just it's their decision. If they want to stay, they can stay. If they want to come out, they come out. I can open the door.
That is reflective to me of someone who is reflecting the truth, that kind of power, like we talked about earlier. But do I have it right, or?
Yeah.
Okay. See this. I'll give you another sentence to say. And again, say it and give me a 0 to 10 on how true it feels. You need the emotional response, not the logical response.
Yeah.
Okay. I am powerless.
I am powerless. Feels about a 5.
About a 5. And what makes it a 5? What shows up that makes it that's 5-ish?
Part of me is not believing it. And that's at different points in my body. It's not it's not a head level.
All right.
It's around my body somewhere.
Okay. All right. I think, Roop, that we've gone about as far as we're going to be able to go today. Remember, what we're doing here is a good start. Now, open your eyes, if you will. It's fine. Okay. What I'm going to suggest you do is to run this. I mean, I'm going to send you this recording. And while it's fairly lengthy, but you can go over the recording, particularly focusing on this the golden current unseen therapist session that we just did. Because it was designed in a way that each time you do it, more things are going to come up, et cetera. And you can start plugging stuff in and stuff like that. And my guess is it will open the doors more and more. You've got a rather stubborn, you've been conditioned big time. Okay. I mean, really big time. All right. So it's going to take more than one good start session, but the purpose was to open this door for you and get a good start. Do you think we left anything undone for this point at this point?
No, I know I've got homework to do. I know I've got to revisit that cell with more people. There's a small queue forming. I can see that inside my cell.
There's a small what forming?
Queue of people forming.
Oh, queue.
And I need to apply it, and
yeah.
And that's homework.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
All right. But I would keep asking yourself this sentence: I am powerless. I am powerless. I am powerless. And keep asking yourself as you go through it. I mean, you even stop and open your eyes and say, I am powerless. What's the number? What's the number? Okay. Because that's, to me, that's the central measure, if you will, of the progress in this process.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to go over?
No, that's
all right.
It's been terrific. Thank you.